Welcome back. We're about to dive into the most exciting part of what's possible in InDesign, and we'll kick off by creating a digital PDF. So under your chapter files, under chapter 3, you will see there's a couple of folders, and the one we want to dive into is creating a digital PDF. And I've created a package here for you with the documents. If you can't open the InDesign file because you're in a previous version of InDesign, no problem, the IDML file is there as well. So this package contains the links, the fonts, and of course the main file. So we'll open the main InDesign file and let's have a look around. Right, our document has 4 pages. Starting out with the main intro screen of our digital PDF. Then we have the second page where we'll have just a sort of a gallery image. Then we'll have a page where we'll add video later on when we do the interactive version. And we have this interactive map. Now, first thing I want to tell you is when we work with digital, and I mentioned this before, we're working in pixel dimensions, not in millimeters or centimeters. Now, you could have designed a print publication and then decide afterwards you want to make it into a digital PDF. That's not a problem. It will still convert, but you just won't work with pixel dimensions from the get-go. If you wanted to work with pixel dimensions and we were starting a new document, you'll notice instead of working with the print sizes, we also have the web sizes. And here it is set to pixel dimensions. And there's a good size, 600 or 800 by 600 pixels. But you can also define your own. So over on the right hand side, we can click on the units and we can make it pixels, and you can specify the dimensions. Okay, remember your screen width is 1920 by 1080. So if you want to make it full screen, you'll make it that size. We can also define the pages, even though in a digital document it's not really pages, it's the different screens of our presentation or of our design. And then you can simply click on create, and there is your first screen. Okay, so that's the basics of creating this document. Now here we've already created the content, so it's ready for us to just dive straight in. First thing we want to do is to create a table of contents that will be clickable so that it jumps to the other 3 pages. Now you'll remember we did this in chapter 2. What did we have to do in order to create the different links or the different content items? We had to create a paragraph style and apply that paragraph style to every page that was supposed to become part of that contents page, or in this case the content links. So you'll notice I made a small bit of text over here. Let's just set this to high quality. Okay, we're going to format that slightly. We're going to create a little blue block with no stroke, but let's use this light blue as a full color, and we're going to make it fade out towards the right hand side, and that is of course an effect. So object effects, and it's a directional feather, and we want it to fade out towards the right hand side, let's say by 100 pixels. We can test that, and there we go, not bad. Let's maybe set it to a little bit less because we're going to have larger headings. Let's set it to 50 pixels. Good. Now we want this bar to be behind our text. Remember my arrangements? Object arrange, we can use this shortcut, and now it's behind that gallery text. And for this text, we're going to just select it, and we'll set this to Arial. We'll make it Arial bold. And we'll make it white. Okay, so that looks a lot nicer, you know, as a sort of a section start. I still don't like this effect. Let's go make it a little bit more again. We'll set this to 100 pixels. That looks better. Okay. Now before we define them as paragraph styles, let's copy the same look to this video about Cape Town. I'm just deleting it. I've copied the other one, and on this slide, if you want to call it that, we can right click. Either we say paste, which would paste it somewhere on the screen, but in our case we can say paste in place, and it puts it in exactly the same place as it was on the other slide. So let's write here video. So now you can see that, you know, that block wasn't really big enough for this long heading. No problem. We just pull it further over. And we copy this again. And for our last slide, which will say map of Cape Town, once again we paste in place with a right click, and we can write here map of Cape Town. Good. So remember we said we need to now define them as paragraph styles in order to bring them into the table of contents. So how do we do that again? We select them, we go to our paragraph styles, and we'll define this as page headings. Good. That records the style, and it's not based on any other style, so we need to take that off and say no paragraph style. Okay, now let's put justified in here as well in our formatting, which might not be ideal, but we'll worry about that once we get there. What did we forget? Oh, we did do this. So remember that apply style to selection, okay, because this one needs to be defined as page heading as well. Now we can dive over to the second one, and we apply page heading, and the third one, and apply page heading. It already had the right look, so it's now just linked to that paragraph style. Okay, now we go back to page one because we want to create that table of contents over here. Remember how we did it? We go to layout, table of content, and we add that page heading paragraph style we created to tell it that each one where it's applied needs to be part of my table of contents. And what is going to be the title? We don't want a title over here, because that title would create a text title above it. We already have it. There it says index. Okay, what style do we want? We just want no paragraph style on that for now. And then very, very important, create PDF bookmarks must be ticked. That means in a digital PDF, if we save it out, that all of those elements on my index or my table of contents will be clickable and will jump to the correct page. Now we can click on OK, And it gives us the loaded cursor, and we can drag in the area where we want that table of contents. And there you go. So it's brought all three options in with their tabs. So we can now set our tab. So we select all of the text. We go to type, tabs. Remember that little ruler that you saw earlier in chapter 1 and 2? And we can tell it to put the chapter number or the page number all the way over here. And we can fill the letter with a full stop. And voila. Now you have your table of content. Okay. So I'm going to save this document. And we'll call this creating a digital PDF. Now, as we move along, I want to keep saving it out as a PDF to show you the functionality and what it's done. So these should now be linked through to their pages. So let's export this. This is not saved as a press PDF, okay, or any of these, because they had to do with print. So we're exporting this document and we're telling it that it is an interactive PDF, not a print PDF. So we click interactive, save. Will ask us which pages, in other words, which slides do we want to export. Nothing else important here. We can just say all slides, all pages, and export. And it will open the PDF for us. Okay, there's my initial screen. You can see the other pages are also in this PDF, or the other slides. And this menu, or the table of contents, is now clickable, which jumps to the correct page. Okay, very nice. Let's go back. Next up, we want to create a little menu system, little buttons here at the bottom. And when they're clicked, the first button on the right will move forward in the document, the left button will move backwards, and the center button will move back to this first page. So tell me, where can we put those buttons that they will display on all of our slides? Remember from chapter 1 and 2, we have to place them on the master page, because at the moment we have a master over here which contains some content. In this case, if we go to it, you'll see it's got the background and the logo. Our document states each slide has an A on it, which means they're linked to the A master. Now, what did I say in chapter 2 when we did our master pages for the first time? Remember, we said that our master page elements should be on its own layer. Now, in this document, we have a number of layers for our different elements. So you'll see if I click on these boxes, they all have red outlines. And what does that mean? It's on the red layer, which is the second layer from the bottom. Now, our master page elements has to go right in the front, so it will have to go on the master items layer. So at this stage, we can click on that layer and we know whatever we're about to create will go on the top layer. And we're going to dive into our master page. So we just double click, opens the master page, and we're going to create the little menu down here. Okay, so it's going to be 3 circles. Create our first circle over here. And I'm just holding in shift so that I can create a perfect circle. And we'll fill this with, let's pick another nicer blue. Let's take this one, and for the stroke we'll make it a nice thin stroke. Okay, we want the other buttons to be the same size, so we can just copy and paste, or remember that trick I showed you, Alt drag on a PC or Option drag on a Mac. And there's my free buttons. I can select all of them, I can align them, and of course distribute to make sure the space between them is the same. Okay, let's zoom into them and quickly do a design on them. So something you don't know yet is the polygon tool can make triangles as well. So if we double click on the tool before we drag in our element, we can make it a three-sided polygon, and we can drag in a triangle. Let's make the stroke a little thinner, and we'll give it a white full color. And now we can rotate it. If you go just outside the bounding box, of course, you can rotate that element. Okay, there's our back button. We're going to use the same triangle. We can just copy and paste it. We bring it into our forward button, and we can flip this around. And there you go. Let's center these nicely in those circles. For our little back to main menu option, we'll just make something that looks like a little menu. Again, a thinner stroke, and we'll give it a white fill. And again, we'll use that little Alt trick to create 3 of them. Or you could have used, of course, copy and paste. Right, that's good. Now, they need to act as buttons. So we can select both the front element and the circle and group it together. Same with these 4 objects. Object, group. And the last one, we group this together as well. Okay, so 3 buttons, 3 elements here. Now watch very carefully. We're going to program them to do something specific. And all interactive features in InDesign is under Window, Interactive. So here you have animation, which you have been introduced to before. You have buttons and forms, which we'll work with now. You have interactivity for EPUB. You have hyperlinks. You have media, and you have object states. We'll be working with all of those in chapter 3. So with this one, we're going to create a button, and we need to tell this button what to do. So we're going to tell it it's a button, first of all, and then we can tell it what is its action. Okay, the event is on release or tap when this is clicked. The action is what do you think? These are all the actions that it can take. The top actions is for PDF. So this is what a PDF can actually do. These bottom ones has to do with your publish online version, which we'll get to in a later session. And then at the bottom as well, you've got some more PDF options. So where does this one go? It goes to the next page, or in our case, slide. So we click that option, and it assigns that action. Now, very cool little feature. I can do a rollover effect on this button. So at the moment it says the appearance is normal, and on the rollover we click onto rollover to activate it, and we can tell it when you roll over it with the mouse, we want that to change to a dark blue. Good. Let's do the same with the back button. We assign a button, We tell it the action is go to last page. And the rollover, we define that color dark blue. The menu item, also a button. And where would this one go to? Action, go to first page, because remember on the first slide, we of course had our table of contents. So that one will jump back to that first slide. Now, remember we are still on the master page, but if we go back to our document, there's our menu. And that menu, because all pages or all slides is linked to the master page, appears on all the pages. Okay, I see we've placed this a little bit too high. So let's go back to our master page. We take our 3 buttons, put them down here in the corner, and we can even make them a little bit smaller. I'm using that Control Shift on a PC or Command Shift on a Mac to make all 3 of them smaller simultaneously. Okay, it's still a little bit high over here. Let's pull it down even more. That's good. Okay, that's fine. We'll ignore it over here. And voila. Now there's a problem. On the very first slide, it's showing a back button. Is there a page before this page? No, there's no slide above it. Do we want to be able to access the menu from this slide? No. So remember how we loosened the page numbers in chapter 2 from the master page by holding Control Shift on a PC or Command Shift on a Mac. In this case, we're going to do that, or we can just hold Shift as well, and we click the Control Shift and click the element, and we'll delete it on the first slide. We do keep this button, and on our very last slide, we want to delete the forward, because that will go nowhere if you think about it. So we'll delete forward. We do want the menu one over here. And that's it. Let's go test it out. Again, we export it as an interactive PDF. All pages, export. And let's open that PDF. And look at that. Rollover effect. Click goes to next button. Look at that rollover effect. Click goes to next button. And our menu option jumps back to the main slide. Very cool. Okay. Let's go back. Okay, over on page 2, we're simply going to have an image. This image in our animated version and our interactive version will have an actual gallery with a click-through. There will be 2 buttons on the sides and it will scroll through different images over here. But that's not possible in a PDF. Okay, a digital PDF has limitations. On our next page, we'll have video. Again, for PDFs, embedded video doesn't work. So we'll continue with that in the interactive version. On the last page, we quickly want to create the 3 little elements for these 3 buttons. And I'm just going to draw up a little rectangle, finish stroke, and I've given you 3 images for those different locations, and they're inside your folders under chapter 3, creating a digital PDF and links. Let's just see. You can use any of those images. Let's use those images that's in there. Okay, so we'll use this image, and of course remember my rule. I'm just going to right click, fitting, fit frame proportionately. If I want to drag it into place, that's fine. And underneath it, we'll write here let's put this box, it's a bit too small. And let's type here Cape Town Harbour, and we'll group this element together as one element. The reason for that is later on we would like to animate this element, and for that we need it to act like one element. Okay, now I want to use the same look for the other two. So how about just copying and pasting it? We'll move this one over here. And the last one down here by the other red button. Okay, this one, let's give it a different picture. And this one will change as well. You'll see if you click on a double click on a group, it actually jumps into that group and you can make changes. And there, we're done. We're done with our digital PDF version. Save the document, and we can export it again just to show you again. Sorry, every time I open this PDF, it'll jump a bit because I've got two screens connected to this laptop. Okay, so our final PDF, we had the table of contents, which works. We had our menu system, which works. And we've defined the look of these three buttons. So a PDF in digital format has limitations, but as you can see, you can use this pretty cleverly to make interactive invites, or a PDF with just a bit more oomph. Now, one last thing we want to do to this PDF is add a link. Let's say, for instance, when you click on Cape Town Harbour, it should open a website. Okay, those are hyperlinks, and we add them from Window Interactive, also buttons and forms, and that block where the text is in is defined as the button, and our action is go to URL, and we can maybe just put a random address in here. All right. Now, another interesting type of link. What if we wanted to do on the last slide something like email us, and that's supposed to be a button as well. So we select that text box, we also make it a button, but my URL is as follows. It doesn't use HTTP. You have to type in their mail to : and then the email address. Okay, and that becomes an email link. Another way to do a hyperlink, if I didn't want to make it into a button, let's undo. I can take the text, the actual text, I can select it and go to Window, Interactive Hyperlinks, and specify the URL over here. Or I can click on this little menu and click on New Hyperlink, and we can tell it it's an email link or it's a URL. You can even do a link to one of our pages. Now, share hyperlink destination would mean it's shared with wherever page content is on. So I prefer to always click that off. And there you've got your interactive hyperlink. Now we're going to continue working with this file in our coming sessions. But I want you to make sure that you understand this. Try it out first and try and create it up to this point before you continue with your next session. All right, guys, that was exciting. I will see you in the next video.